to do a careful balance between ensuring that there's food on the table and ensuring that there's beautiful legacy of eventually transforming this country into a modern economy that has gone on for quite some time, actually continues. Yesterday, I drove very close to this place, and I was smiling very, very hard. I came from the airport through the expressway, and then got into Thika Highway. I wasn't going to this particular venue, but I was going somewhere nearby there, and I was imagining what an average African president, taking that route would be feeling. I felt proud. Yeah. I actually felt proud. And the point that I was trying to say is that, yes, some of these, we can do a bit of bashing for political campaigns, but a lot of the investments that have been put in this country are good for us. They're futuristic, they're forward-looking. Yeah. Yet, at the same time, the beauty is that they give the incoming president a very, very, very clear starting point. Yeah. He has to protect this wonderful legacy that secures our future, but at the same time, we need food today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brigadier, like I mentioned, I'll keep you off the politics, don't worry. Let's talk about the...
This is food.
Let's talk about the protocol that we've seen.
Food is very important, yeah.
And earlier on, we saw some of the members of the uniformed service or the defense forces by the cannons, where there's a 21-gun salute. So this happens when there's a visiting head of state, like you mentioned earlier on. You can also walk us through it in terms of they're also empty cannons. But this time, it's happening in an inauguration. And also, there are 20 visiting heads of state. So do we expect that this 21-gun salute will happen here and then happen in State House as well? Because there's a luncheon there where the 20 heads of states are coming in? Or is this an honor for all of them at the same time, including the newly inaugurated president?
Yes, Trevor, as I did mention earlier, the gun salute is the highest honor for a visiting president. And normally, you'll find that after all the functions, are over, state visit and all that, the evening before is when you find in State House and given the 21-gun salute. Now, today is not for the visiting heads of state. It's the new president and commander-in-chief. He's the new visitor today to the Republic and to the office of the presidency. Therefore, today that gun salute is purely for the incoming commander-in-chief. Yeah. I should mention also that it's not here alone that you have the 21-gun salute. Normally, in terms of the gun salute, yeah, it's not here alone. And you recall very much in the past, we have had them being done. But for, let's say, look at the Queen of England, who has just passed away. We'll see a gun salute. Now, in Kenya, gun salute also is done in a smaller number. When the head of state or a serving head of state passes away, it is 21. When a retired president passes away, it is 19. The 19-gun salute for a former president. That also, again, is an honor that we bestow on those who have served us in that capacity. For today, therefore, as you asked, the gun salute, 21-gun salute, is purely for the incoming president.
Yeah. And you say the incoming president is now the commander-in-chief. In terms of protocol in the disciplined forces, how does it work? And is there almost like a stopgap measure, or does what the commander-in-chief say is done, regardless of what your feelings are? Who comes first, commander-in-chief, and then who do we go to?
Now, in terms of order and structure for the Kenya Armed Forces, and indeed the National Security Forces, the Supreme Commander and Commander-in-Chief is indeed the sitting president. And that's why you'll find that even in his car, you'll see the CNC. Yeah. And normally you see on major ceremonies, the 5 stars for the commander-in-chief. Now, for the armed forces, below him immediately is the chief of defense forces, who is a general and a 4-star general for that matter. So when a vehicle comes, ceremonial vehicle, you'll see the 4 stars being portrayed there. So this is, again, in terms of history, something that's picked way back during the traditional wars, where in some kingdoms and empires, actually at that time, the royalty used to take part in war, and they lead troops into war. And because of that, therefore, you find that he has that power as the commander-in-chief. And indeed, it goes way back. In fact, if I can recall back in terms of history, we borrowed it very much from the Roman Empire, where we had something we used to call the imperium, or the empire. And therefore, the king would be the king and also indeed the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. In history again now, you find that in time, others have also copied this. And of course, for us, we borrow very much from the British Empire, where for the British, actually the first person to take on that authority at that time was King Charles I of England in 1639, who became the king and also took over as the commander-in-chief of the entire forces, both in terms of the kingdom and what was outside the kingdom. And that, therefore, over time now has been taken on, more so particularly by those coming from the British Empire. So you find a major power. In fact, today, as you see today, about 57 nations do actually have the president as a commander-in-chief. The remainder are a bit flexible. Some will put it in the prime minister. Some will put it in the defense minister, varying depending on your history and where you came from.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's listen into the sights and sounds at the Kasarani Stadium. There's a lot of entertainment going there. I wouldn't want you to miss out. Let's listen in.
Walifikiria kwamba askari ni wabaya tena ni haramu, hivyo wakaogopa tena sana. Siku za koloni wananchi walifikiria kwamba askari ni wabaya tena ni haramu, hivyo wakaogopa tena sana. Ewe mwananchi, nataka ujue askari si adui. Askari watakaya ni watumishi wako, hulinda maisha yako wewe. Ewe mwananchi, nataka ujue askari si adui. Askari watakaya ni watumishi wako, hulinda maisha yako wewe. Nini mama wewe. Oh! mwanzoni wananchi walifikiria kwamba askari ni wabaya tena ni haramu, hivyo wakaogopa tena sana. Ewe mwananchi, nataka ujue askari si adui. Askari wote Kenya ni watumishi wako, hulinda maisha yako wewe. Ewe mwananchi, nataka ujue askari si adui. Askari wote Kenya ni watumishi wako, hulinda maisha yako wewe.
Kenya kazi yao ni kulinda nchi yetu. Kenya polisi nao kazi yao ni utumishi kwa wote. Uaminifu na haki ndio mwito wa polisi wa utawala Kenya.
Sisi ni watoto wenu baba na mama. Sisi ni watoto wenu baba, walinda usalama wewe.
A new dawn there at the Kasarani Stadium, with the 60,000 capacity almost filled to the brim as the inauguration ceremony of the 5th President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, takes place at the Kasarani Stadium. It's a public holiday, quite a number of people already there. More than 20 heads of state are expected there anytime from now. Still with me in studio, Brigadier General retired Ahmed Mohamed, Director, Center for Security and Strategic Studies in National Defense University of Kenya, that's NDUK, Professor Alfred Omenya, Urban Development Planner, and Gabriel Muduma, Governance and Policy Expert, still with me in studio as well. Brigadier, before we went to Kasarani Stadium to listen into what's going on there, you were talking about the command structure, and you mentioned 5-star general, 4-star generals, and those are live pictures from Kasarani. Quite a number of people still breaching the walls and forcing their way into the stadium and jumping all the walls, getting in there. Earlier on, we showed you pictures of people forcing their way into the stadium. There were some injuries that were reported, and we saw some paramedics coming in, and this seems to be happening even now as we speak. The members of the public are expected to be seated by 8 a.m. You can see the security forces taking charge there, but there seems to be a breach of protocol as they come in. And Brigadier, this almost builds a security nightmare for the security services, because you can't use too much force, but yet there's a possibility of a security breach there. So how do they balance those two?
Trevor, this is quite interesting, because as you said, that balance is very important. On one hand, it's a very important day, and you can see the urge of the population to come and witness this important day. On the other hand, the issue of security cannot be compromised. And normally what we do in such instances, we apply something called layers of security. You saw that what you have is starting from far, almost like from the road, almost half a kilometer. Yes. You have it secured, and then coming backwards to the what we call the high-value unit, which is the stadium itself, so that the walls, the external walls, are secured from the outside and from the inside. When you get to the building itself also, it's secured from the outside and from the inside. I think it looks like a bit they're overwhelmed in terms of the people now actually running over the wire fences there, which is not very good. It needs to be controlled here.
Okay. Yeah. And so you were talking about the 5-star general and the 4-star general. Is there any given point where the 5-star general is more than one in the country, or is it just the head of state?
Now, Trevor, the 5-star goes along with the title of Commander-in-Chief. Now, while that is the case, in other armies, you'll find that the 5-star is actually reserved for a field marshal. Field marshal, and I'm sure you can recall, although not really very appropriate, former president of Uganda, Idi Amin, who was a 5-star general. But normally the 5-star general is reserved for a commander who has led an effective operation in war in defense of his country. It's reserved for that purpose only, the 5-star general. And it still will apply, in most of the republics that is the case. But for us, indeed, at any one time, there's only one commander-in-chief.
Yeah.
In this case, it is the president. He is indeed the supreme commander of the armed forces. He has that overall authority. And in fact, that is vested within the Constitution. Article 131(4)(1), where that power is given as the commander-in-chief. Then below him immediately, we have the Chief of Defense Forces, who is a 4-star, who in essence actually runs the armed forces in terms of day-to-day operations. And on the civilian side, of course, we have the minister who provides that oversight in terms of defense. But the minister has that chain of stars, no. The chains go from the president, the commander-in-chief, to the CDF, who is a 4-star. And then from there it goes to the service commanders. Another very revered group who, again, in terms of, as you said, service in Kenya, the Army, Kenya being the senior service, then the Air Force and the Navy, the Army commander is a 3-star general. Yeah. The Air Force commander is a 2-star general. And the Navy commander is indeed also a 2-star general. The stars go down from there now in terms of rank, where a Major General is 2-star, and then as me retired, a Brigadier General is a 1-star general. It starts from there. 1-star general, 2-star general, growing all the way into the 5-star general.
Yeah. In terms of the command structure, can the Chief of Defense Forces tweak maybe the command from the Commander-in-Chief? Or so, for example, you're mentioning why the significance of the sword, and even in terms of war, you said that this is what gives people direction. If you say attack, you attack. But then, in this particular regard, how does the command structure really work? Is the commander-in-chief's word in full, like that is the final thing that is done, or can that be tweaked to somehow fit the occasion if the Chief of Defense Forces thinks maybe the temperaments are not in the right place? As you can see, obviously, in Kasarani right now, it's the legislators who are coming in. Most of the elected leaders, you'll see quite a number of them coming through, and we'll show you live pictures from there. We're also waiting for the entourage of the president to head out from State House. That's a picture you can see up there, and live pictures from Kasarani, both inside and outside. We've seen a bit of a breach of security where people are storming in, and the legislative leaders will be coming through there. We'll be showing you live pictures. Yes, Brigadier. Is his word law that it can't be?
Now, remember, Trevor, as we said, and which is very important, that this power is drawn from the Constitution, in the sense that the president, on assuming office, first becomes head of state and government under Article 131(1)(a). And then, of course, under the same article, C, is where he becomes actually the commander-in-chief. And through that, therefore, he is the supreme commander. Now, part of what we know is that the idea of the president being the commander-in-chief is more like to preserve what you may call the civilian supremacy over the armed forces, that the armed forces indeed subordinate to the civilian authority. That is the essence. And remember also, within the same token, that the president is given other powers, that it is indeed the president, as a commander-in-chief, who can declare a state of emergency. In the same token, is the president who will declare a state of war, of course, with consultation with Parliament. So that all is tied in within the powers of the commander-in-chief, so that he then gives direction. For instance, our going into Somalia, very much an armed forces action, but it was authorized by the president as the commander-in-chief. And now, again, we come to other issues. That is the first, at the outset, at the start of the war, that authority must come from the commander-in-chief. Now, in the normal battles and small wars that go on, once the oppression is on, that's left now to the commanders, the CDF and the service commanders, who now operate and run the small battles that they engage in as the war goes on. Okay. So the start and the end will normally come from the commander-in-chief.